Out of everything that Iran has fired at the Gulf states and Israel, the headline makers, the most destructive and very difficult to counter have been its kamikaze drones. Countering them in the air is super costly. These drones can single-handedly wipe out the defensive missile stockpile of the US, Israel and the Gulf states rather quickly. So is there a cost-effective way to counter them? Because if there isn't, the Gulf states, US and Israel will soon run out of THAAD and other air defense missiles. I'm Abhishek Singh, and that is what we will talk about in this video. Forget winning. If the US wants to defend its interests and allies in the Gulf, keep the proverbial camel's back from breaking, it must figure out a cost-effective method quickly. Look at this. This is what I'm talking about. Iran's battle-tested, extremely destructive, cheap Shahed drones. Killers which fly across the skies as a bullock cart moves on ground. Slow, visible to radars, and cheap, compared to shiny, high-tech, fast-moving missiles worth as much as $4 million each. One-on-one, there is no comparison between the two. But fire 100 or 200 or 500 of these, which Iran easily can and has, soon you'd run out of the shiny, high-tech missiles. And if that happens, you're a sitting duck, waiting and watching helplessly as a bullock cart inches closer and runs you over, vulnerable to anything and everything Iran throws at you. Iran's ability to produce these drones cheaply stems from its use of aluminum composites and commercial off-the-shelf components. The manufacturing process closely resembles a car assembly line more than traditional aerospace production. And these cost just $20,000 odd. As of March 23rd, the UAE has intercepted 367 ballistic missiles, 15 cruise missiles, and 1,789 drones, according to its defense ministry. Yet, several still struck targets, killing 8 people and injuring 161 others. In Bahrain, the defense forces said its air defenses had downed 147 projectiles and 282 drones, though interceptions were similarly imperfect. Saudi Arabia has also recorded repeated successes against Iranian barrages since late February, with the defense ministry logging hundreds of interceptions. But the cost ratio per interception could reach 10 to 1 or even 60 or 70 to 1 in Iran's favor. And all said and done, in the end, war is nothing but a money game. The imbalance, which is already showing up in US defense spending, is unsustainable. According to a New York Times report, officials in a closed-door Capitol Hill briefing on March 10th have informed the higher-ups that war costs have already exceeded $11.3 billion in the first 6 days alone. What's not included in this? The cost of deployment, which alone can run into hundreds of millions of dollars. The Washington Post claims roughly $5.6 billion worth of munitions were fired in just the first 2 days, a number which is far fatter than what has been publicly disclosed. The Center for Strategic and International Studies had earlier estimated that the first 100 hours of operations would cost $3.7 billion, or about $891 million per day. And those numbers are not surprising, because a single battery costs about $1.5 billion, while each THAAD interceptor costs around $15 million, with multiple interceptors often required per incoming missile, or Shahed drones. By some estimates, more than 800 US-made interceptors were used in just 3 days of fighting. So what's the solution? Experts are saying perhaps the only way to cut costs are directed energy defense shields, powered by AI. Israel has one such system, the Iron Beam, which can intercept drones for around $3.5 per shot, though its operational use remains unclear. In a recent deployment, the US Navy destroyer US Preble used the Helios system, shot for high-energy laser with integrated optical dazzler and surveillance, to shoot down multiple drones. Helios is a 60 kilowatt laser weapon. It can neutralize drones, aircraft and missiles. Developed by Lockheed Martin, it can disable targets either by frying the sensors or by confusing guidance systems. It can even do the job by delivering a high-energy beam that physically destroys them through intense heat. But what's crucial is the cost factor, and laser weapons can deliver on that front. So the question is, how reliable are they? As is the case with all weapon systems, the tech involved has certain limitations. The potency of a laser beam in this case can be degraded by environmental factors like rain, fog, dust and smoke, mostly because these can scatter the beam. Then power is the other challenge along with range limits. So there could be an option, but clearly can't be trusted to act as a wall which can block all sorts of threats from Iran. Now, if there is one country which has figured out a way to deal with drones, it is Ukraine. Since the start of the Russia-Ukraine war, it has endured thousands of drones fired by Russia. In January 2026 alone, Russia launched more than 4,400 Shahed-type drones against Ukrainian targets, averaging about 140 per day. Ukraine had no choice but to find effective countermeasures, and it did. To begin with, Ukraine can teach Gulf states how to use manufactured interceptor drones called MEROPs, which cost between $10,000 to $15,000 each. Kyiv can offer them now at a much cheaper cost. Ukraine's Sting interceptor, developed in early 2024, cost between $2,000 to $4,000 per unit. Small, fast, and highly maneuverable. Some Sting variants can reach altitudes of about 11.3 kilometers, carrying payloads of up to 1.8 kilograms, with interception rates reportedly exceeding 85%. An excellent option, in other words. If you're wondering how easy or difficult they are to manufacture, well, almost 1,000 can be produced daily by a dozen manufacturers. But transferring that expertise is not straightforward. Add to that the trouble and time which will have to be taken into account to train personnel. Not surprisingly, Ukraine has claimed Gulf states have expressed interest. For Iran, this war has been a proof of its capabilities, whether developed entirely in-house or with the help of few friends it has, like North Korea, Russia, and China. For the West and Israel, so far it has been a war which is proving too costly to sustain. No wonder reports are indicating that JD Vance could soon be sitting down with Iranian officials to discuss truce. But will the truce hold, or will Israel and US use it as an opportunity to plug the gaps in their strategy? That remains to be seen. If you liked watching this video, please don't forget to like and share.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the US will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government? HT videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.